Hello, subscribers and non-subscribers. Welcome back to ChäoS Head. Let me go ahead and set my timer up for 20 minutes. And that is what we shall do. So, load the game before I start the timer. Okay, and start timer. The pedestrians around me, who should have been in an uproar, were calmly waiting for the light to change. The truck wasn't anywhere I could see either. As ever, the glasses-wearing girl was on the other side of the crosswalk, watching me. Was what had happened just my imagination? The light turned green. The pedestrians began walking all at once. I couldn't move. Girl A didn't move. She neither burst out laughing nor raised her skirt. All she did was watch me intently. It was as though time had stopped solely for the two of us. Why didn't that bespectacled girl start walking? Why was she still standing in place? She's weird. She's strange. I mustn't get involved with her. It would be better to run. I should run away while I still had the chance. Run. Berating my weak-willed and withering heart, I dashed off in a straight line. Away from Girl A, I ran back down Dugan Hill, though I had just come up it, and entered a side road I encountered along the way. That instant, something slammed violently into my shoulder and I fell down. I groaned, failing to understand what had happened to me, as pain ran through my whole body. It took me a while to start pushing myself up. Okay, I don't think there's supposed to be two pushings there. I think it's just supposed to be to start pushing myself up, but whatever. Fan translation, what can you say? When I raised my face, there was a large scooter toppled over in the middle of the road. I must have collided with it. Gritting my teeth, I tried forcing myself to stand, but my legs wouldn't support me. Nothing seemed to be broken, but...
大丈夫ですか?
Before I knew it, Girl A was right in front of my eyes. She peered into my face as though she were worried about me. What was with her? What was with this girl? My body wouldn't move for me. Pathetic as it was, I was petrified. I didn't know what to do. With things having turned out like this, I regretted that I hadn't used the train to Shinsen to get home.
怪我してませんか?
Girl A called out to me cautiously. Was she scheming to catch me off my guard by pretending to be concerned about me? I wouldn't let you fool me. I won't get taken in by the likes of some 3D chick.
なんなんだよ。
え?
ついてくるなよ。僕に何の用だ。
She looked bewildered. I desperately derided her while scooting back on my butt in hopes of opening even a little distance between us. If I didn't do so, I thought maybe she'd pull a knife out of her clothes any second and come attack me. That gruesome spectacle revived at the back of my mind over and over. No matter what I did, I kept wondering whether I would end up the same way. She lowered her head, her expression wounded.
あなたが急に走り出して様子を見に来たら倒れてたので心配で。でも 今は用事とかあるわけじゃないんですが、そのえっと
Oh, what exactly is that? Hmm? Not as if she has any business with me, she says. Way too cryptic.
じゃあなんで付きまとってくるんだ。
それはえっと
She fumbled her words. As expected, her behavior was far too suspicious.
私楠木優愛って言います。
No one had asked her to, but she suddenly started introducing herself.
実はあなたのこと一目見てなんとなく存在が気になって、それでつい
She just ended up tailing me? This woman, who introduced herself as Yua, gradually lowered her glance while blabbering something obscure.
ごめんなさい。
She furiously bowed her head. Impossible. That was my honest reaction. Looking at her like this, the girl called Yua was rather cute, I'd acknowledge that. Which was exactly why I didn't believe her. A 3D girl who felt favorably toward me? What was this? An eroge? In my whole life up until now, no one had ever said something like that to me. That was why this sudden confession could only ring false to me. Did she think I'd rejoice over it? Regardless of the fact that she'd been creeping around me like a stalker up until a short while ago? I might dig a character like that in the 2D world, but I didn't want to see it in real life. It'd send me reeling back. And I was incredibly embarrassed. I wanted to get away from her right away. The third dimension really is shit. To put you under the pressure of anxiety when all you're doing is talking.
僕は三次元に興味はないよ。
What an interesting way to turn people down.
いやめ
I stammered because I was attempting to say something harsh. Even so, I need to make it clear to her or she'd keep hovering around me later. No thanks, I'd pass on that.
迷惑だよ。付きまとわないでよ。
すいません。
Seeing her hunch over and fall silent, I wondered if she'd really reconsidered. No, don't let her trick you. Don't trust anything in the third dimension. All I could trust was the second dimension. I had more faith in Sarah's words than in whatever this girl said.
もうついてこないでね。僕帰るから。
Faltering, I fought to stand up. My body still hurt here and there. My shoulder in particular had trouble moving, and an intermediate dull pain kept running through it. The pain briefly made me dizzy. I might have hit my head when I fell. Yua hurriedly caught at my hand and supported me as I stumbled.
怪我してるんですね。手貸します。
It was a lot of work to avoid meeting her eyes, no doubt about it. My face was turning bright red. She'd make fun of me if she saw it, so I turned my face aside and roughly shook off Yua's hand. The inside of my head was pure white. I almost never touched females, other than my family members. I felt the pulse in my chest growing steadily faster and faster.
お家まで送ります。あなたが怪我したのは私が付きまとっちゃったせいですから。だから送らせてください。
I was happy at her suggestion. I wasn't used to having others be nice to me, so even though she was a 3D girl who'd previously induced only revulsion in me, I was in serious danger of falling for her. That was why I didn't have the courage to look at you face to face. Besides, she was a stalker, and she might be related to that demon girl, and I didn't want to die. Anyway, I was attempting to think about a lot of things, but I couldn't think about anything, and I became more and more discombobulated. Okay.
あのお家どこですか？
深セン。
深セン？
Oh crap! I thought as soon as I nodded. Why did I have to and tell her? What? Okay, whatever. What was I expecting from her? At most, this would turn out to be a delusion. Or else, at the very, very end, I'd be thrust down from the pinnacle of happiness and fall into despair. And that kind of pattern appears a lot in anime. A death flag had gone up for me. Shit. Without me realizing it, Yua had slipped under my shoulder to help hold me up. Her soft body was practically glued to me. Her hair smelled nice. Impossible. There was no way a 3D girl would be this nice to someone like me.
歩けますか？
When she asked me, I made the mistake of nodding again.
じゃあ行きましょう。
Yua spoke nervously and began to slowly move forward, watching my feet. She was doing so much for me that I could no longer refuse her or shake her off. Helpless, I had no choice but to start walking, borrowing the assistance of her delicate shoulders. Neither Yua nor I spoke until we reached the building where my base was located. As if I could ever have a normal conversation with a girl. Obviously, if I brought up the subject of anime or games or figures, the 3D girls would reflectively call me a creep without so much as trying to understand me. From my perspective, there was nothing to be gained from talking with those bitches.
ここでもういいから。
Somehow, forcing myself to say just that much, I studied her reaction. Yua gave me a small nod and let me go. I still staggered a little.
やっぱりお部屋までついていきましょうか。
Ignoring her suggestion, I headed for the building's entrance. This ragged 22-year-old building called Kirinai Hall, I guess, was 8 stories high and housed multiple tenants. Well, I would hope so if it's 8 stories high and it's an apartment building, essentially. It was grimy and the stairs were steep. The elevator hall, not that it was big enough to be called a hall, was dark due to faulty electricity. Merely 3 people were enough to fill up the elevator, and its speed of ascent was irritatingly slow. The container housing on the roof formed my base. Yes, we know. I ended up here thanks purely to my dad's connections. Apparently he was a friend of the building's owner, and the rent was pretty cheap. The fact that it only took 10 minutes to walk to school was also a plus. In truth, I'd wanted to live in Akihabara, but my parents wouldn't let me live by myself anywhere other than here, so I gave up and settled in. Well, just as they say, the place you live becomes your palace. And I felt fortunate that it wasn't so bad once I actually came to stay here. There was supposed to be a tenant on the first floor, but ever since I first arrived here, the shutters had always been closed. Next to the rented space on the first floor was a narrow entrance which led to the elevator hall. You had to take a slight step up to get in there. The instant I raised my foot to climb it, a fierce pain ran through me and I swayed.
大丈夫ですか？
She's still following us. Yua leapt forward to hold me up. Damn it, so she was still here.
やっぱり部屋まで送ります。絶対 送りますから。
Her declaration sounded oddly frantic. To be perfectly honest, it was an enormous help to have Yua come this far with me. After reaching the 8th floor via the elevator, I'd have to climb a set of steep emergency stairs, and in my current state, that seemed nigh impossible to do alone. Yua didn't seem very strong, at least going by her outward appearance. Despite that, she did her best to support me, catching her breath as she helped me climb.
こんなところに住んでるんですね。
Yua was rendered speechless upon seeing the container housing. I guess from a normal person's point of view, living in an industrial container would seem downright unbelievable. Yeah. Yes, it does.
なんかその憧れます。
And I don't quite understand why, but whatever. Yeah, exactly.
アウトローな感じがしていいですよね。こういうのって。
Okay, whatever. I never dreamed someone would say such a thing. Was she trying to butter me up or what? I won't be fooled. I definitely won't be fooled by one of you 3D girls, okay? With Yua supporting me, I opened the padlock on the door and went inside. I finally made it back. Today had been disastrous. It might be best to become a Kikamori after all.
真っ暗ですね。電気のスイッチはどこに？
This girl, she'd brazenly gone ahead to the middle of the room. But, well, there was also the fact that she'd lent me her shoulder on the way here. If possible, I didn't want her to look around the room. After all, there were a ton of figures lined up on the shelves, and eroge packages were piled up on the bed, and the floor was littered with trash.
もういいから話して。
Having communicated that, I waited for Yua's hand to leave me, but she wouldn't release me so easily.
床すごく散らかって、じゃなくて歩きにくいと思うんですけど、絶対危ないです。ソファーまで行きましょう。そこで話しますから。
Okay. Got about 3 minutes left on the timer. In the end, I did as she told me. Magazines and CDs were scattered atop the sofa too, but Yua swiftly tidied them up while still supporting me, then helped me sit down. She was kind to me and so considerate. No, don't be fooled. I won't let you fool me.
平気ですか？
As she and I were alone in my room, since the door was still thrown open, some faint moonlight came in, but the inside of the room remained mostly dark. Which was why I couldn't tell what kind of expression Yua was making. Conversely, though, my being unable to see her well made her breathing sound even more sexual. Come to think of it, this was the first time someone other than my little sister had visited my room, and she was a girl I'd only just met. If this were a game, I'd have triggered an event flag, the sort of situation where we'd get cozy and end up kissing. But I wasn't expecting that kind of thing. Reality was endlessly cruel. Unlike the second dimension, and this girl wasn't normal. She was a stalker. Speaking of which, how long did you plan on standing there in front of me? If she'd done what she wanted, she should hurry up and leave. Having thought that far, I pulled up short. Surely she wasn't planning on doing something horrible now that the two of us were alone.
明かりのスイッチは。
パソコンの。
パソコン？
The only source of illumination in this room was the desk light set next to my PC. I started to tell her to switch it on, but I couldn't bring myself to finish.
そうか、デスクライトですね。
Scrupulously, I avoided the garbage at her feet. Er, Scrupulously avoiding the garbage at her feet as she walked, Yua wavered her way over to the desk and turned on the light. The room was at last released from darkness. In the dark, being unable to see had the opposite effect of driving me to fantasize about all kinds of things, but now that I could see her clearly, I didn't know where to look and became even more embarrassed. Becoming completely incapable of speech, I hurriedly hunched over. And actually, the timer is just about to go off with like 3 seconds left. So we are going to, whoops, wrong thing. Cut this right here. So, as always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell. And make sure that I save. And there we go. But like I said, goodbye and farewell.